Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for My Child is Gifted. Now what? I'm going to go ahead and jump right into sharing my screen so we can get started with the presentation tonight. Okay, so My Child is Gifted. Now what? Now this course is intended for parents of elementary-based or elementary-age students whose students have recently been staffed gifted or in the process of going through that. And the first thing we're going to discuss tonight is the school-based gifted services that are offered here in Duval County Public Schools. In elementary school, there are 3 models. 2 of them are more common. The most common model or program for gifted education in Duval County is the resource model. Less common, but becoming more common throughout the district, is the full-time model. And the least common is the consultation. And I have been in DCPS for going on 16 years. I've only seen 1 student on the consultation model. And we'll talk about that one in a little bit. So the first program model that we're going to talk about is the resource model. And this one is the most common that you see. This is where gifted students who are staffed gifted typically will attend a gifted resource class 1 day per week. Now this gifted class is taught by a teacher of the gifted. They have the gifted endorsement on their teaching certificate. This resource class is not available at every single school. Typically, how it goes is that the schools that have the resource program are the schools that have a higher number of students staffed gifted. So if your student attends a school where there may only be 15 or 20 students that are staffed gifted, they may not have a teacher of the gifted at their school. And so they might actually go to another school for their resource program that 1 day a week that they go. If that's the case, transportation is provided by the district. They will go to their neighborhood school or their home school, whatever school that is, in the morning. They still go to their homeroom, and then they get on a bus, and it will take them to the school that provides their gifted resource that 1 day a week. They will eat lunch there. They will do everything there that they would normally do at school, but just in their gifted resource class. And then when that time is up, the bus will bring them back to their home school so that they are there in time for dismissal at the end of the day. So transportation to their home school and from their home school does not change. The resource program allows students to have educational experiences that they wouldn't typically be provided with in their general education classroom. As I mentioned, it is taught by a teacher of the gifted, so they create lessons that encourage those skills and guidelines that are in the gifted frameworks for the state of Florida. And the lessons typically will encourage critical thinking, creative thinking, collaborative group projects, leadership skills, research, goal setting, things that they don't typically get to focus on or experience in that regular general education classroom. Another program model, it is not as common as the resource program. It is becoming more common, but this is the full-time program. And in this program, students are clustered together, or they're grouped with gifted or high ability learners. So everyone in their class might not be staffed gifted, but they're all identified as a high ability learner or staffed gifted. And then they're taught by a certificated teacher who also has their gifted endorsement. So they're also a teacher of the gifted. But it allows the teacher in the classroom to move through subject material faster, which then allows them to have time to enrich that core content. So the math, the science, the reading, even the writing, all of that sort of brings in those gifted frameworks. So it's every single day they're in a classroom with other students who are gifted or high ability or high achieving. So this type of setting really allows for higher level thinking. It allows the teacher to increase the complexity and the depth of learning that's taking place in the classroom. Because students can work at that accelerated pace, the teacher is able to sort of compact lessons. In a typical regular education class, it might take the teacher 2 or 3 days to move through one lesson, whereas in this full-time program model, the teacher may be able to get through that entire lesson in one day. Then they've got more time that day, or they have extra time the other days that they're not teaching that lesson to take the depth of what they're learning to a greater level and really push that critical thinking or the creative thinking. In this program model, students typically have more choice in the way that they present mastery of their learned information. So they may not just learn something and then take a quiz or learn something and take a test. You might learn about it, and part of that critical thinking, creative thinking, and those leadership skills is to give students the choice of then how do you want to demonstrate what you have actually learned? Do you want to create a board game? Do you want to code a computer video? Do you want to do a stop animation? Do you want to create a PowerPoint? It's really open to what interest the student has and then the resources that are available within the classroom to be able to create something that's not just a test or pencil paper. And I mentioned this is not available at every school. Currently right now, I want to say it's offered at about a handful, less than 10 elementary schools in the district right now. The schools that offer the full-time program can change every year. I suggest if you're interested in the full-time program, reaching out to your student's current school and find out which schools around you have that full-time program model. If a school has the full-time program model this year, they are more likely to continue to keep that program model next year. So if your school is aware of one in your area, then it would be a good idea. You could possibly apply for school choice. I know the window closed at the end of February, but it will actually open back up over the summer for controlled open enrollment. And it's what they call their late application window. So if you find out of a school that has this full-time program and it's something you're interested in, you might be able to apply for school choice through that late application window. So both programs, the resource program and the full-time program, offer a lot of the same things. They both are going to offer you the cooperative learning experience. They're going to offer you the leadership experiences. They're going to offer the flexibility for learning, pacing. They're going to develop the creative and critical thinking skills. The biggest difference between the resource program and that full-time program is that the full-time program will incorporate all of these things and the other skills and goals that are in the gifted frameworks into their core content areas. So that resource program is 1 day a week. It's all day of learning this way, but it's not necessarily learning with the academic standards. That full-time program is going to be learning this way and the academic standards at the same time. And the last model or program option, it's not really a program, is the consultation status. The consultation status is where a student basically does not actually receive services from a teacher of the gifted. They are monitored by a teacher of the gifted, but they do not regularly attend a gifted class, whether it is the resource or the full-time model. Again, I've been in DCPS going on 17 years, and I've only seen this once, and it was years and years and years ago when we still had the FCAT test. And so it was a third grade student, and The student was comfortable, but the parents were just nervous about the test coming up because in 3rd grade it would retain the student if they didn't pass it. And so they put their student on consultation status for the last half of that school year. That is absolutely up to you. If there's ever a circumstance that comes up and they're in a resource model and you don't want them missing class 1 day a week, you can absolutely put them on consultation status and then take them off whenever you want. That is just a matter of scheduling an appointment with a guidance counselor. So those are all of our school-based gifted services. And now we are going to talk about some things that we can do at home to help enrich our gifted or high ability students. And the reason we want to do things at home is because it's not uncommon for our students who are gifted to have interests that are unique for their age or that go beyond their age group. It's not uncommon for them to have interests and passions that are driven by their personal beliefs, right? Some gifted students have a very strong sense of right and wrong and justice, or they just feel a lot of empathy and compassion for others. And sometimes those strong feelings are what drive our gifted students. And so it's important to help enrich those things at home so they can learn how to manage them, but also turn them into things that can help them at school, but also later in life. So one of those ways is to establish an enrichment area at home. And this area is one that should create or allow for the fostering of creativity, imagination, exploration. They should be able to design, create, free build, problem solve, make a mess, whatever it is that's going to help them. When they have free time at home, that is the perfect opportunity to offer this enrichment opportunity for your child. What are they learning about in school? Encourage them to dig deeper into that. If it's something with social studies, do they have questions about what they're learning? Is it science? Do they want to do an experiment? Whatever it is, try and bring what they're doing at school into that enrichment area at home, but it also just let them explore and learn whatever it is that they're interested in. It might change from one day to the next, but that's okay, especially if you can put it in a room where you can close the door and you don't have to always look at the mess. It's okay. Sometimes that chaos, that messiness, that's really where they're doing these things and they have these opportunities. Part of this enrichment area is so that they can fail at something and then learn how to persevere through that or problem solve their way through that. And it's in a safe space, because oftentimes our students who are gifted are afraid to fail. They don't want to take the risk and try something new because they might not be good at it the first time they try it. That is very common. It's also common that our gifted students don't always feel challenged in the classroom, and so they don't always get to experience that struggle of having to learn something. And so this is a safe place where they can do that. Put a tablet in there, let them look up how to draw something on YouTube or how to create a stop animation video. You can even create a maker space in there where you've got, materials that you pulled from recycling that can be upcycled, or Legos or spare computer parts, art supplies, whatever it is that is of interest to your child in that time, and just really try and make it that safe place for them to explore, but also to face those setbacks, whatever comes with it. And that's really going to allow them that opportunity to learn how to persevere there, so that if it happens in school or middle school or high school, they've already had that practice. Because a lot of times in elementary school, our gifted students aren't getting that practice in the classroom. It's also not uncommon for children who are gifted to become hyper-focused on something, a particular game or activity or craft, anything. So having this area set up lets them embrace that, and then it just gives them that opportunity to develop it and grow. And this one is maybe something that you already do, which is family game time. The way that this helps enrich our gifted students at home is through that critical thinking piece. So these are just some examples of some different family games. They're all some type of strategy game. And the more our, I want to say society has become digital, the more we get away from these hands-on games sometimes. So Quirkle, for example, there's no board. You just play on a table or the floor, wherever. But you have to arrange tiles with different colored shapes and patterns, trying to earn the most points. But at the same time that you're trying to build your own pattern set, everyone else playing with you is trying to block you from building that pattern, from completing a pattern. And so you're trying to strategize. It really helps to build that critical thinking because it helps them get out of that me mode. And this is what I'm doing. This is my set that I'm doing. They've got to look at the whole board to really try and win. Blockus is another fun game. This one, players are strategically placing blocks based on a set of given rules for each of the pieces. But and similar to Quirkle, they're also trying to prevent other players from being able to place their blocks on the board. So again, it's that strategy piece that's coming in. Well, the rules say that I can do X, Y, Z. So if I place this one here, I could do this, but then the person across from me might be able to place theirs. So how do I put mine down where I'm putting myself in the best position, but then preventing that or preventing someone else from trying to get it? And then sequence, there is a board for this one. It's got cards, and players have to use strategy to complete 2 different sequences of 5 cards on the board. And this one's really fun because each person can play on their own, or you could team up and play. But when you team up and play, the team partners sit across from each other. And so I wouldn't know what you had in your hand. I wouldn't know your cards and you wouldn't know mine. And so I'm trying to help you, you're trying to help me, but we can't communicate. So it's critical thinking, it's defensive thinking because, well, now the other team is putting chips down on my cards. It's trying to predict what's happening. It's using logic, it's using reasoning, but it's also being creative. And sometimes our gifted students struggle with the logic and the reasoning sometimes. So these are just ways that we can help enrich those thinking skills, but again, doing it in a safe space and doing it in a fun way that involves the entire family. So now we're going to look at some ways that we can continue to enrich our gifted students and help encourage those interests, but in our community. And this is important because sometimes gifted students have this heightened sensitivity to the rest of the world. It's that empathy piece coming in, or they see the news and then they worry, or they're maybe a little extra anxious, or they're just really concerned about the neighbor down the street who doesn't look well. This is common. And so again, we want to just help them find ways to build a natural leadership while also encouraging compassion and respect for others. So some different experiences that you can do that are based on real needs: volunteering at a local homeless shelter, donate items for charity, pick up trash in your community, help a neighbor around the house. A lot of schools have cleanup days. A lot of baseball and softball leagues have park cleanup days. So those are ways that are right there, most likely right there in your neighborhood, in your little community, that your child can have a direct impact on helping, and they get to see it. So it's that immediate, I did this and now I get that immediate gratification almost of, I also get to see how it helps someone else. And then ways to seek opportunities based on your child's interest. If you have a child who is all about animals, the local humane society, you can go read to the dogs at the shelter, and they actually have an option now. My understanding is that you can even do that virtually. So if you couldn't get to the shelter, you could virtually log in and read to a dog or a cat. There's local ranches with horses that most elementary age children are going to be too young to be able to go actually volunteer to do anything, big with the horses. But there's one here in Mandarin. I can't remember the name. I'll look it up and I'll add it to the recording. But if you as the parent go with your child and stay with your child the whole time, they'll let your child brush the horses, put the feed out for them. You could also just collect supplies to donate to the Humane Society, or even like Caddyshack Wildlife Sanctuary. If you have a child who, maybe they're worried about the elderly neighbor down the street, or grandma or grandpa, aunt, uncle, somebody is sick and they want to do something to help others who are older. There's nursing homes, there's assisted living facilities, excuse me, where you can go and read to an elderly person or sing or play games with them. A lot of times they have different volunteer opportunities on the website for you. And then children, a lot of our gifted children just feel compassion. They feel very strongly when they see other children who aren't getting the same things that they have, or they see children in need, but they can collect items for children who are in need. There's a local camp called Camp I Am Special. They provide experiences for children and also adults that have different disabilities. And so they could go, they could collect items, they could go find out if they could read, or just go play basketball or play a game or help them with something. If you have a child who is into construction or engineering or building, they love Legos, or maybe they want to be an architect, Habijacks would be a great option for a family community service project where they could go and really get some hands-on experience and see the things that they're interested in being applied in real life. There's a local organization called Hook the Future. If you have a child who's interested in nature, or maybe they really like to fish, Hook the Future engages children in fishing, but while also teaching them how to be good caretakers or stewards of our environment. And so there's just a lot of different organizations out there that are doing some really neat things that we don't often hear about on the news. And if we don't know that they're out there, we don't really know where to find them. But there are also opportunities that our students don't have in the classroom. And so it's nice to be able to help enrich them outside, but also doing it as a family. Thinking locally and globally, if you have a student who has just that strong sense of right and wrong, maybe they want to write a letter to their local, state, or national government official. Maybe they want to write a letter to a company or an organization that has done something, but your child disagrees with it. So help them write those letters, or even write letters to law enforcement officers or servicemen and women, healthcare workers, coaches, teachers, anybody that they think might need a little pick-me-up or might sometimes typically be underappreciated, right? Like, just give them that opportunity to embrace their empathy and their compassion. Random acts of kindness. I mean, there's so many things that you could do that are free, but anything that they could think of, honestly, just to try and make someone's day a little bit brighter. Bake something for the neighbor, leave a happy note or a positive note for someone to find. Create a community garden and help take care of it, grow vegetables, share the harvest. There's just so many different options out there. for the random acts of kindness, that when we have a student or a child who's a little bit overly sensitive, this is a great way to embrace that and channel it into something positive that will continue to have a positive impact on the community, but also on the child as they grow and mature. Now, there are several different gifted organizations out there. I want to share a few with you that are trusted and very well known. So you've got the National Association for Gifted Children, and that's their website, which is the nagc.org. This website has resources specifically for parents. They have resources for children. They have resources for teachers. They host a conference every year. They're just a wonderful organization. If you have a gifted child who is maybe a little bit more emotional or even less mature than their same age peers, I recommend the Supporting Emotional Needs of the Gifted. This website, it has so many resources out there, articles that you could read, all about how you can help support that emotional or the emotionality aspect of raising a child who is gifted, because it's not always easy. And, I have one and we've got meltdowns about the littlest things. To me, they're the littlest things, but to her, they're not. And so I've read articles that have helped me recognize, to you, this is a big thing, and I need to sort of take a breath and now help you work through it. And that goes back to also the community projects that we can do and how can we help channel that emotion into something positive. Mensa for kids is great, especially if you have a gifted student who is incredibly academically talented. That's a great resource. And then you have the National Society for the Gifted and Talented. And so these are just some of the websites. There are a ton of websites out there that you can explore as a parent, but these 4 are, I think, probably the top 4, especially if you're just starting out. I would start with the National Association for Gifted Children, or I would start with the Supporting Emotional Needs of the Gifted. I would start there and then maybe start looking at the others, because I know it can get overwhelming. Our gifted department consists of just 2 specialists for the district, which is not a lot, but they are fabulous at what they do. And these are 3 books that they recommend to parents whenever they host trainings. And you have The Gift of Failure, How the Best Parents Learn to Let Go so their children can succeed. And this goes back to that enrichment area and building that, trying to help our children learn how to struggle, learn how to fail, but doing it in a safe space. And that enrichment area also gives them a little bit of independence. Why Smart Kids Worry and What Parents Can Do to Help. I am currently reading that one myself because I have a very anxious child. And then Letting Go of Perfect, Overcoming Perfectionism in Kids. All right. And so I don't want to take up more time than I need to for you. Like I said, I know time is precious. I know evenings are crazy, and I am so thankful that you joined me tonight. I hope you found this helpful. If you think of a question later, or if there's something that I didn't answer in enough detail for you, please feel free to email parentacademy@duvalschools.org. And I'm going to put that in the chat as well. But even if you think of something and it's not about gifted, that is perfectly fine. We want to be your resource to help you get whatever it is you need. So again, thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great night.